Nigeria is facing a childcare crunch, $23 billion. That is about 6% of the GDP.
Some people have underage domestic workers.
And it's not even just a some home, it's like a small business.
We don't talk about it. What are they paying them? What are the conditions of work? These are all of the issues.
If you have hired someone to take care of your most prized possession, your home, your children, things that you value, and you think that that person should be treated worse than the person that works in your office, it really then boils down to how our society actually really does value care.
Absolutely. I wouldn't want to, or I wouldn't have loved to bring in this example. For the average Filipino, care is second nature. What do they do?
Families are not protected.
So this is a national crisis, really.
Most of the nannies step into a new reality.
And that's exactly what I was just going to say. You cannot give what you don't have.
Welcome to the Homefront. My name is Blessing Adesiyan, founder and CEO of Caring Africa, and I'm here today to kick off an exciting yet troubling conversation: the care crisis here in Nigeria and across the continent. I'm talking childcare, aging care, the care workforce. And I'm here today with two, I call them care innovators, because these women have innovated around the challenges that we have here in Nigeria when it comes to solving for childcare, for housekeeping, solutions, support for our aging families, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to say too much. So let me begin by introducing Mrs. Ugorji and Mrs. Agbim. So please introduce yourself.
Hello, viewers. My name is Amara Agbim, and I'm the founder of the Nanny Academy. The Nanny Academy trains and places nannies, and our mission is to inspire livelihoods in caregiving as a way out of poverty.
Hello, my name is Itoro Ugorji. I'm the founder and chief executive officer at the Baby Lounge. The Baby Lounge is a childcare service that has evolved over the years to become a reliable support system for working parents of infants, toddlers, and young children.
All right. So I just want to start by level setting with some statistics. Nigeria is facing a childcare crunch that affects millions of families. When parents can't find affordable care for their kids, the whole society feels the impact, from children's development to women's careers and even the economy at large. In fact, experts say that closing the gender gap in Nigeria workforce could add as much as $23 billion. That is about 6% of the GDP to the economy. But that won't happen if women are forced to stay home due to lack of childcare. So this is why the care economy matters, right? And we talk a lot about that, especially amongst ourselves. So I figured it's time for us to have the conversation that everybody has chosen to ignore, which is our broken care system. The fact that, in fact, there is no care system. I think we're the one that is even recognizing that is a care system. So I'm going to start with you. You are the founder and CEO of Nanny Academy.
Thank you very much. I like how you put it, that the Nanny Academy is attempting, because it's really an attempt. And this attempt has been on for the past 15 years. We've literally been scratching, trying to put structures in place or systems in place. But really, I think that answering to your question about how and why, it was a case of I needed a personal solution. I need childcare, and I wanted to be the woman who would go back to pursuing her dreams even after I got married. I didn't want to be stuck, having children. I wanted to have it all, right? And I thought, okay, how can I achieve this? And I think the easiest solution is to have collaboration in, caring for your own children. I needed people. I always say that, we are all migrants here in Lagos. Literally, I wasn't born in Lagos. I came to Lagos from the East. And so my support system is not here, right? Yeah, my mom and my dad were in the East, and I know that I needed something to rely on. And of course, when I was getting married, I had this conversation with my husband. I said, look, I would like to have childcare. I would like to, have an adult. I don't want any underage childcare. So I want a structured childcare. So are you ready to support me? And he was like, yeah. And so in the first year of our marriage, when I was pregnant, we started looking for childcare. And that was like some 20 something years ago, 20 plus years now. And we found childcare, we found a nanny, we interviewed several people. And then we hired Angela. And Angela is still in my house today, 20 years down the line. Yeah, so why did we choose her? We chose her because she was a mature woman, she had some experience and all of that. And that was how my journey into envisioning the Nanny Academy started. Down the line, of course, Angela resumed work. And then I started, seeing the problems. The problems of, hey, this woman doesn't like this job she's doing. She's not proud of it. And of course, I engaged her occasionally, and I discovered that she wasn't happy because, number one, the pay was not attractive. She wasn't happy because people disrespect the profession. And, so, oh, you mean that's what you're doing? You cannot find anything else. You just nanny. I'm like, okay, what is this? Is this how I'm going to do it? How am I going to survive changing people, every now and then? And that really gave me some, deep thoughts. And then on the other side, I had my friends who were also, on the same table with me. They were looking for childcare. They wanted to pursue their careers and all of that, but they were having a hard time. Oh, today they brought mama this. Tomorrow they brought one girl from the village, and they are all, complaining about these people not being committed or proud to do the job. Yeah. So at that point, work-life balance was something that was very, close to my heart. It's still very close to my heart. I was publishing a magazine then called Work Life. And that was how I said, oh, I get it. There is no need to be talking about work-life balance without doing a solution, like work-life solution. And that's how the idea of nanny, professionalizing, getting these people mentored, whatever it was, what do I need to do to see a structure? So that's how the vision came. I did a feature story in the Work Life magazine. And then from there, I said, you know what, I'm not publishing again. I'm doing this. And that was how the Nanny Academy started. But when we started, there was nowhere to look. There was nothing. I was running from place to place looking. Is there anybody that knew that? The only thing I saw was what? I saw agents, I saw all of those. And I'm like, no, this was not it. And that was how my curiosity, my passion, my drive and everything, I converted my work-life office into a nanny school. And that's where the journey began.
Wow. It's mind blowing. And I think the numbers or the statistics on the care workers or domestic workers, if you will, in Nigeria is, I think, close to about 5 million
Absolutely.
domestic workers here in Nigeria alone. And I think we don't measure a lot of things. I think that number might even be higher than that. And that actually leads us to you, because the population of the country is growing.
Yeah.
So by 2040, Nigeria is on track to become the third populous country in the world. We have tens of millions of children that are of preschooler age, 0 to 5 year old, and only 1/3 of those children are in a childcare like setting. We don't know if they're high quality or low quality, but we know that majority of children are actually not in childcare setting. Mrs. Ugorji, can you share with us what the state of childcare is right now in Nigeria? You've been in the space for close to 20 years, and you have heard from moms, from families, from employers, corporate leaders around the state of childcare, and you've offered a bunch of solutions, various childcare solutions, childcare models. Can you share with us what some of those things look like?
So I would share using three adjectives. The current state of childcare. One is largely inaccessible. Secondly is not affordable. And thirdly, it is of low quality. So that in a nutshell just summarizes the state. And what we have attempted to do, and I think a growing number of providers are beginning to see, the importance of stepping up, on these three areas. And what we've attempted to do is address each of these fronts. Okay, so in terms of accessibility, which is very closely related to affordability, because when it's affordable, then more parents can access it. Okay, we've tried to partner with organizations and still trying to partner with the government, you know, to ensure that it is kept um, affordable and at the same time, the quality is not compromised. And, in fact, just, structuring childcare as bite size so it can be affordable. So the daily plans, pay as you go childcare. So I can't afford to put down 100,000, for example, but I can pay 5,000 for daily access. I can pay 10,000 for daily access, right? While I manage, the other days. So that's one way we have tried to address that. And then partnering with the corporates, but right now, the office crashes or the corporate crashes is still structured to only be accessible to just the employees of those organizations. But we're saying to larger organizations, that's the best way to actually carry out a CSR project, for example. Give value to the community where you're located. Open up the crashes for use to the public.
Absolutely.
And then subsidize it. You already have, the real estate, you have the resources. Same thing with the churches. You talk about adding value to your community. That's the best. And most of the churches already have, well set up children's churches. It's just the workforce.
So it's just a matter of utilizing the resources that are already absolutely, available to us.
I guarantee you that the congregation alone in those churches will fill out those spaces.
I love what you said about, how do we sort of think about different childcare structures that were not available to us in the past, or that was just out there and we just didn't know that, we could utilize this. Because a lot of families do need this childcare to go to work, especially women. But let's come back to you, because the nanny situation in this country. In fact, I've been thinking of ways to just come and hijack Nanny Academy and shake you guys that what is going on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I wanted to start from a point you raised earlier when you said about 5 million domestic workers. And I want to put it straight. Whatever the population is in Nigeria, every family in Nigeria has a domestic worker.
Yeah, so let's even just take all the
So
house.
every family in Nigeria has a domestic.
And it's not even just a.
Yeah,
Some home is like a small business. There's a share, there's a driver,
I have
and a housekeeper.
it's quite a luxury, but then it also shocks you that, okay, we are not getting satisfaction from having those people. So there is a lot of problem in that sense. Every family has a domestic worker, but what kind of domestic workers do we have? Some people have underage domestic workers, and those are, we don't talk about it. We only talk about the formal ones that we hire. We keep blind to some of those things. And then, some do have, hired help. What are they paying them? What are the conditions of work? I wonder what conditions are they staying there? Are they staying in human conditions? Are they meeting what we call decent work standards?
What is decent work standard?
Decent work standards ensures that the person who is working would have their dignity met on the job, that they will have rest periods, that they will have pay that is equal to the labor.
Know that our domestic workers are not covered in the current Labor Act.
Of course, and we're going to see why.
Here's why we are where we are.
Yes, we're going to. These are all of the issues, and so with this background, there is help in the country. There is ample human resources, but how are we deploying them? What is our culture when it comes to help? We are largely dependent on, my brother's daughter is staying with me. They are doing domestic chores for you. My aunties, this person is staying with me and all of that. But now let's come to the cities, which is where I think a semblance of formal care is, happening, where people go to say, okay, I want to hire someone who is not related to me to work for me. And that's where, we play at the moment. That's where we play at the moment. And so what we are doing, just like you asked, is, we have structured programs that we have designed to say, okay, as long as people go through these processes, like these processes, we are going to get these expected outcomes.
It also boils down to, just as a society, right, that we don't value care. Because if we value care, we'll be paying more for it and we'll attract the right people into the profession. Right now, people are not attracted into the profession because nobody wants to be treated like crap.
Absolutely.
Nobody wants. So if you have hired someone to take care of your most prized possession, your home, your children, things that you value, and you think that that person should be treated worse than the person that works in your office or the person that you meet in on the road, right? But the person in your home is the first person that you treat in the and I have seen really, really painful situations, right? And so it really then boils down to also how our society actually really does value care.
Yeah. Is it about really valuing care or not valuing it? I think it's more a question of we don't value people. We had this culture. I think we spoke on, fitness earlier. That's really, what strikes me when you see case study upon case study, scenario upon scenario of what happens in families. You mentioned turnover. Yes, there is a high turnover. Why would there be turnover when conditions of work are not favorable? Right? But I know that at the end of the day, everybody's looking for value. Speaking to that same value. Now, value, there's something called value chain. And in care, there is a value chain in the offering, like, oh, I have a need. And then I want someone who is going to fill this need. So, most times we take time to ask people, okay, please, could you, give us your specifications? What are you looking for? And all of that. And then we try to fill that. But then what happens? There is still a disconnect. And where do that always happen? It happens at the point where people are poorly treated and they are not motivated, and then there are conflicts and there are, abuses and contracts that are not respected, and then people will boil on it or bail on it, as the case might be. Now, how many of us, how many women, or families, let me not say women because it is a family responsibility. How many people are willing to, look at this from that lens of, partnership? You're partnering with a domestic worker, to raise your children, to get this and that, outcome. And then let's talk about those conditions of work. Starting with, basic things like food, housing, transportation. How can people work hours on end with no breaks, health breaks in between, despite signing contracts? And that's why I said there is need for public-private partnership, not just in terms of providing orientation, but also in policy making. We need to have policies made. We need to have those rules that we can use to now say, okay, you violated this, please, can we take it to this court? So the issue of justice has to come in when we are talking about care work, care workers, and managing the care crisis as it is. The whole world right now, care is on the front burner, especially post-COVID, right? Care is on the front. They have realized that, look, the care economy has a lot of potential and we cannot get anywhere without having, quality care. So what would that mean to our country?
I still want to take this back to the Nigerian family, right? Like what this then means for at the average family. I hear you on, and me, I always like to play, devil's advocate, because whilst, and that's some of the work that we do at Care in Africa, we're looking at the care economy in its entirety here in Nigeria and and across Africa, and we are saying, how do we sort of grow the care economy? And part of growing the care economy will mean that we try to solve for this care workforce, private public partnership that needs to happen. But then you also look at the family on the family's end, right? And especially for me, I'm a mother of four. And I'm gonna tell you right now, that I have tried it all. Miss Itoro is laughing. Oh, there's nothing I've not tried. I have tried the contract. I have, paid really, really well. My children go to bed at 6:30 p.m., so my workers are, they have their evenings, they have their, weekends off. We've done it all. We use baby lounge on weekends for, to fill the gap when they're on their breaks. And yet, what we also need to acknowledge is that a lot of the people that are attracted to this workforce, this domestic workforce or care workforce or nanny, whatever we want to call it, are really are people that don't see this as a job. That is just the honest truth. They come in and they think that, oh, this is just the way I'm going to just manage myself until the next thing comes along.
Yeah, and that's why I just wrote down professionalism here, because you have actually said it all when you said that, oh yeah, the things that happen in the domestic space affect us more because it's like close home, right? It's personal, almost personal. Unlike in the office, you can afford to like, oh well, I don't even care. You go home to your safe place, and then when you get home and then something is amiss there, it really hurts more. But that's also the more reason why this conversation about orientation, orientation can proper onboarding and, a public-private partnership. This needs to become a sector. I mean, I wouldn't want to, or I wouldn't have loved to bring in this example, but I would, just want to compare us to Filipino nannies, right? For the average Filipino, care is second nature. It is part of their culture. They intentionally groom to care. Now, who are the equivalent of the Filipinos in Nigeria? We have the Akwa Ibom people. I don't know if you know.
I am DBO. So the Akwa Ibom is a state, but I guess that the tribe you're referring to are Ibibios. So
Really?
I am Ibibio.
That's why you
Yes.
A natural care.
Natural nurture.
It's natural, right? Yes. And I think that those people need to be understudied. What do they do? We can elevate it on a national level to make care to be acceptable, to become part of part of a profession that someone can go and study in a higher institution.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you, and I think that those kind of traits do not have tribes.
I
So
agree.
it's about the individual. While there's certain tribes or group of people that tend to be more hospitable than others, I think it's about the individuals. So I used to say that we're taking jobs. Our vision is to take jobs from Filipino nannies.
Yeah.
When we came up with the in-home child mindful, right, the stopgap childcare, yeah, we don't do nanny placements, but we decided that it was important that no mom is left stranded. So you have a childcare emergency, you can book a nanny or a child minder, right, that fills in that gap. And we profiled those individuals, and it was important that they were kind, right? Those are soft skills
Yeah.
that are not necessarily teachable, but I think that they can be learned.
Yeah, they can be learned through orientation, through training, case study sharing, and all of those.
I agree with you because, quite frankly, you will read some things and it will shock you.
Yes.
For example, the parents that was telling the nanny that that's why you're poor, that's why you're dirty. There's just a lot of bad behavior, and it boils down, quite frankly, to what we've been saying. This kindness and empathy, that is actually missing in our society. And I don't know if it is the poverty. And I think that a lot of families, do these things and expect that the carer will continue to hold up their own end of the bargain.
Yes.
So you're not holding up your own end of the bargain, but you expect perfection from that person.
Yeah.
And can we also add the fact that there's no training, right? Yeah. So most let's just say the truth. Most of the nannies step into a new reality.
And that's exactly what I was just going to say, that you cannot give what you don't have. So the divide is too much. That's why we have to prioritize education. I mean, a little survey we did in the Nanny Academy, out of 1,000 enrolled nannies, we have a whole 80% that can barely read and write. So this is a national crisis, really, alongside, all other crises that we are having, the crisis of poverty, the crisis of, lack of education. And that's why I still, go back to say that when we can close this gap, to public-private partnership, we've actually attempted to design programs that incorporated literacy into the curriculum, which is not our core area. We should be talking about, care skills, but we find ourselves doing English classes, trying to, comprehension or digital training, things that will make them to be functional on the job, because functionality is part of what is, desired. But then you can't function when you don't have understanding.
I would just put someone on the road and with no direction.
Do you understand?
I think that we are now at a critical point, which is why there's a crisis, right? We are at a point in our society where women want to work. Women, in fact, some women are forced to work because the one income family is, we are running out of, we just can't afford that anymore. We need a two or a dual income family. So women are saying that, we want to work. So we're gonna keep working. We need childcare. So I think we're now at a point in our society where we have no other choice than to invest in care.
Yeah.
Because, for example, how do we scale a nanny academy so that we can, have more care workers in the system, get educated, upskilled, trained, and we can also attract more people into the profession, right?
So the crisis, let's just identify that the crisis is not the experience of the rich or the middle class, right? Childcare is needed by low-income families too, and I think that trip to the market, right, was the evidence that we needed. Okay, so I think I had mentioned once that someone described, the baby lounge as childcare for the rich, and I didn't think that was very patronizing because it is, support that every family needs. Now, the mom in the marketplace needs somewhere to keep her child, so that she can focus on her trade, right? And it is not just somewhere that is safe and comfortable. Now, it does not have to be expensive for it to be comfortable and safe. And I think that is what, a tour around some of the areas, in Lagos has revealed. And which is also one of the reasons why, we keep exploring different childcare models. One of them was, neighborhood creches. So we thought the little estates or the closed gated communities, right? You can cater to the families within that community. It's just a space. There's a standard, setup. We set up that space and have parents use the space. Already it is subsidized because, the estate can bear the cost of the real estate.
We can also do something, and that is changing the mindset of employers on what do we really need when we say we need help. I'm not calling it house help now. So when we say we need help, what is the need? Can you do a thorough analysis of your need? At what point do you need help? Because what I see that happens in this space is that people just want to hire people and put them down without also considering that those caregivers have a life.
The humans.
They are human beings. They have a life. They also need care. They also have families. They have children that needs to be cared. Now, if you bring a human being and bottle them in your space, how do you think, where is their outlet? How are they going to function? So if we can begin to rethink the model of hiring, how we hire, like, okay, do you want to hire live out or live in? Do you really need a living? Everybody wants to hire living. Is it really, really needed? Is it really what we all need? Because that creates a lot of toxicity, stress. And it's almost like house arrest for these people, right?
Some people have even decided that they will not be doing anything. They just throughout, Monday through Sunday.
Yeah, because if you're asking me how we can attract better people with better skills, the conditions of work could be the answer. Can we start thinking about flexible, like schedules? People can do night shifts, morning shift, afternoon. There are, just to give credit to some families, there are people who request for that, and it really works. There are people within our, client base who request for that because they're not like, what, this is when I need this. So it now becomes a question of not overindulging, a little bit of discipline on the part of the employers to also realize that you have a part to play in this mix. You don't just hire somebody and just put them
and have them be on your life.
Run your life.
Literally, that's
So that's what happens. Because so when we do, rethink the model of care that we need, when we need it, our families will become more functional. Like we can actually get our spouses, more involved in care, and even our children, like part of the, challenge we were talking about. And then we get that care when we need it, so that the caregiver also have their own life. And that will ease off that tension a bit. Then we can attract. There are so many women who are not employed. There are so many people who are not employed. They don't want to work because they're like, oh no, this is just my life is going to be a mess. How can you be a woman, you have a child, and then you're leaving your house by 6 a.m., but nobody's going to care for your own child and you need to run on Friday. So there has to be that, rethinking of the models. So what hours do we need to hire people?
working hours.
Yeah, working hours.
And days
As working models. And then, consider shifts. So all of those will, because what happens here, people work Monday to Sunday in the domestic space, even though they don't sign such contracts. That's what happens in practice. So there's a burnt out. Some of the
Like the structured service like yours, there's contract.
what's a lot of those agents?
No, the agencies don't.
exactly. So when people's lives are so, so that turnover will be there.
When you hire, someone that you don't even understand their background, you don't know who they are, because there's no real, you're not looking for any real qualification, right? Yes, you already sort of expect low quality,
Yeah.
right? And I think that a lot of this is actually what also kickstarts that relationship, right? Because families are also sort of like, even for me, when I hire people, sometimes I'm like, I'm just going to lower all my expectations.
Yeah.
But when Baby Lounge walks in, no, I'm not lowering my expectation, because I already know that Baby Lounge is going to give me quality, that they will pay attention to the child, that they will, give me a report, they will communicate effectively, that I'm not going to have to ask them over and over again. So this all ties back actually to what you also talked about, the literacy and the educational level.
Absolutely.
How do we raise that literacy as well as the standard of care? Because we have to do both.
Yes. So we need options. That's the truth. And the options has to be good. You just need to choose what will work for you. And so that's why I keep emphasizing public-private partnership. And then, of course, everybody needs care. Not everybody may afford the Nanny Academy. Not everybody may afford Baby Lounge. But what are their options? And are those options good enough? So those options are going to be embedded in models.
And I just want to step in there, because that is something that we are working on with Caring Africa in partnership with the Baby Lounge to strengthen childcare models.
Absolutely.
In Nigeria, because we recognize that this is a privilege. Nanny Academy, the Baby Lounge is a privilege, but can we codify this? And can we find out what models also exist in other across various spectrums, and help those, and exactly what you said, look at local churches, because you actually localize the support.
Yes.
It's easier. That is when somebody can work 8 to 5. The childcare is just, the nanny is literally living next door. For example. So it's easy for the nanny to just come to work, leave.
Yes. And they are earning money.
And so any
Exactly. Yeah, big money. Yeah.
I want us to emphasize a bit more on this. What is the role of our government on this private-public partnership? Because I feel like there's innovation happening on the private side, and there's nothing happening on the government side. And I honestly want us to have this conversation simply because there is no social protection for families in this country, and there's no social protection for our children. So what are the tangibles? Is it that, what do we think will work?
Regulation, funding, definitely funding. I think those would be the two major spaces. I think the private sector has done a whole lot, and they need that. that support. Yeah, they truly need that support, to take off. If we have, the government, someone regulating, and then you talk about, the social protection, I don't think um, we don't have any real database background where you do background checks, right? We don't have any social security. I mean, if there's one, I'm not aware.
Right now, somebody can murder a child in Benue and be calling your baby the next day.
Absolutely, under two different names.
We've seen and we've heard of horrible situations, and so families are not protected, and it is actually an economic problem, right? Because we are basically running a system that has loose ends on all sides. Nobody is checking the system. Nobody is making sure that people are, that care is accessible and affordable, and the care is even vetted.
I think the biggest step of faith that mothers take is entrusting their children to random strangers. Think about it. What do you know about the help you just hired?
I'm going to start say, I don't know what I'm not starting, start crying. I have fortune, I cannot get away.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we can't forget the dynamics of our country. The fact that we have an economic crisis as well. And so because we have an economic crisis, government is global, right? So government will be in a dilemma of this, okay, where are we going to start from? But we have this crisis, we have this, healthcare issues, we have this, we have that, infrastructures and all of that. So, but I think for the care sector, we can start with policy. Absolutely. And, sometime last year, we were at the National Assembly for, there was a call for a bill, which up to now, nothing has come out of it. So the bill for the domestic worker, documentation and protection bill, which I think is where we can start from to have a legal framework, right? To where we can, benchmark to say, okay, this is how at least the pay is going to be decent. These are expected of employers. There was some nuances in the bill because when we got to the point of talking about pay, they said, oh no, they can't pay the minimum wage. So why should that discrimination happen? Government should help us to make sure that this bill is passed, right? So that domestic workers can at least get that decent pay. That's, minimum wage applicable to them. And then from there, funding is very important. Funding for projects in care. They shouldn't be excluded because I don't know about any existing one, but I know there are agricultural funding projects, there are education funding projects. We don't have any for this sector. Let's even have something so we can, take off from there to support the effort of the private sector while we then continue to drive these conversations there should be more conversations, there should be more stories, there should be more advocacy to help to build up this very fragile sector because, like I said, I mean, the numbers are quite large. When you see the numbers, when you see the demographics, when you see the stories behind, you understand that we are really in trouble in this country. We are in trouble. And until we solve it, I mean, to talk about care crisis it's just putting it mildly. Because it's a disaster. Yes, in their need. And yes, so the solution to reducing poverty we can get a 40% relief from this sector to solving unemployment problem if some investment can come in, if some policy and legislation can be made, to ease off things in this sector.
So we have to change the narrative. We have to upskill our nannies. As long as you're interested in the work of childcare, right? I think that we should have this ladies and perhaps gentlemen, trained properly to cater to our children. I think our children are too precious to be left in the hands of charlatans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you both. I think two things: formalizing the workforce, the care workforce, and investing in childcare infrastructure. They're two big and bold changes that indeed could reframe the entire system. And I think will actually catalyze the economy. Our economy has been stagnant for way too long. You know, I left Nigeria 20 years ago and I'm back here and the same problems generate. So no lights, no this, people are duping each other. There's just a whole bunch of things where nothing has really changed. And so the truth is, in order for us to achieve all these good things that we all dream about, the hopes and dreams for the country, we would need to, invest in childcare, professionalize the workforce, and so on and so forth. So thank you to everyone listening to us. And a lot of people always ask me that, Blessing, how can we help? And I always say, talk to your employer about childcare. Talk to your policymaker here. Let's not just walk by our commissioners, our ministers, and just be taking pictures.
Yeah.
Have conversation
Yeah.
about the fact that you need childcare
You need it.
so you can go back to work.
Yes.
That you are looking for a qualified nanny and it has been hard for you to find a database
Yes.
that ensures that they are vetted. And if you are a corporate employer, please provide childcare to employees. I mean, it's just the basics, and we know that companies are doing it in Nigeria. We have MTN, Providence Bank, Standard Chartered Bank. A lot of companies are investing in childcare so parents can go back to work. So Amara, Itoro, thank you so much for joining us today on the Homefront.
Thank you.
Till next time. Yeah.